We've got actually 3 guests. Hopefully you can ask them questions one by one. Let's just bring in the Minister of Mineral Resources. Please come to talk to us. We're live on SABC. Hope you're well. Your expectations for today?
I'm expecting the President to deal, one, with the management of the COVID-19 and move towards finishing it. We've managed it over 2 years in a very decent and decisive way. 2, we must talk about the economy and the need to recover and reconstruct the economy. Those 2 are the 2 main focuses. Then within the energy, within the economy, you can talk about infrastructure, energy security. You can talk about unemployment, poverty, inequality. There are many.
And issues around ESCOM as well.
ESCOM.
You just had load shedding this week.
ESCOM is energy. ESCOM is energy. It was built from 1923 into a very efficient, effective monopoly energy supplier. The fact that we lost that, actually we can point at what point did we lose it. Because we know in 1996 the state was warned to build a new capacity. It didn't respond. We are dealing with the consequence of that lack of response now. But we must also be able to build that capacity anew. It's a pity that when you talk on energy, many of the people talk about a supplementary program in the energy department than actually trying to say ESCOM must produce optimally. It has 45,000 megawatts connected. At best, it operates at 30,000 megawatts.
So Natasha, thank you so much for your time. I know you're in a rush. Let me just bring in Mr. Naren Singh of the IFP. You heard what Minister Natasha had to say. I mean, as the IFP, are you satisfied with his answer? South Africans are angry over load shedding and how much ESCOM is actually costing the economy of the country.
Well, I think it's wishful thinking what he said. I mean, there are so many things that the President will have to talk about. I don't think this 1.5 or 2 hours is going to be enough. The country is burning. And I think what happened in Parliament is a reflection of the state of the country at the moment. Very few things are working optimally, and I don't know. It's going to be very, very difficult for him to convince not only us as members of Parliament, but South Africans that he's going to get things on track. However, we all live in hope, and we trust that there will be some plans, at least, that can be implemented that will improve the plight of millions of South Africans in our country.
Mr. Thank you so much for your time. Of course, let's just link back to you in studio in Joburg, Francis.
Thank you very much, Natasha Phiri. Our reporter Atule Joka is also out and about in the vicinity of the hall. And Atule, what can you see? What can you tell us about the mood? We've heard some of the festivities that are back this year.
Yeah, well, Francis, apparently every year there are always people who are here with their grievances to try and use this time as an opportune time to try and get their grievances across to government or to the president so that they can be escalated, so they can be speedily responded to. Earlier on, there were members of working buses coming from various townships, from the communities. They were standing there outside those barricades, but the police had to speak to them to say they will try and find a delegate to speak to them. So they tried to move them away to try and disperse them. Then they will get a delegate to try and address some of those grievances. But still here, there are still people who are remaining to try and get that time if they can be able to. Those people who see that are standing there are just trying to get a glimpse of what is happening and also get a glimpse of the president and all the motorcade that is happening there. I will have a gentleman who comes from an association of reserve soldiers. I understand some of your grievances is that you were not paid on time. Please talk to us about your grievances.
Okay, so you remember the unrest that was the looting that happened in Joburg and Durban in June of this year. So we were all called up as veteran soldiers to assist the country in order to restore order. So we were called up to a place called Umsumvubu, a base in the Eastern Cape, Mthatha. And there we were promised we'll get paid, we'll be called up in the reserve forces, and to date we have not gotten paid. We've spoken to the generals, we've met with them after we went to the media. They called us, they asked us not to go to the media, and then they said we'll pay you, we'll call you up, and after that they put out two statements to say we all had criminal records, that's why we weren't called up, which was a lie. And then there was apparent an inquiry, and in the inquiry they said no, it was all civilians that turned up. This is also a lie. So we just want to get them to acknowledge that they called us up, acknowledge that they owe us, they need to pay us for the time that we were there, and they must acknowledge that we are reserve force members or veteran soldiers that also wants to be looked after for what we have done.
And also today is the State of the Nation address. The President will be taking the nation into confidence, taking stock of what has happened and also giving a progress of what has been made. How are you planning to get a message across to the President? Because I understand that security is very tight here today. What is your plan?
Well, the police pushed us away. As you can see, we were standing over there and the police decided that's a critical area, we need to be pushed away. So our generals don't listen to us. They've promised us and they don't listen to us. So if you must ask me about the state of the nation, the promises that is made tonight in that building and year after year shows me that they want to show the world, listen, this is how good we are. But on the ground, we know that it is not so. On the ground, we know because a mere simple thing as to pay a veteran for the work that is done, they can't even get that right.
What's your name?
Jean Pierce.
Okay, and the title in the...
No, I'm Jean Pierce, I'm a veteran soldier.
Okay, Jean Pierce, one of the veteran soldiers there, Francis, giving us an account of what is happening in some of your grievances. I also have a member all the way from Swaziland. They're also using this time as an opportune time to try and get their grievances which are happening in their country across here. So just talk to us. You came all the way from Swaziland. What is your issue today?
We came here representing the people of Swaziland in the diaspora and also back home. We came here because Cyril Ramaphosa is the current chairperson of the SADC. We know that in Swaziland we still do not have democracy. We know that last year, after the killing of more than 100 people by King Mswati's armed forces, he came to Swaziland to try and intervene. So we are here to say, as he presents the SONA, let him also remember the issue of Swaziland. He gave Mswati 3 months, and then in that 3 months, Mswati promised that he was going to come back so that the issue of Swaziland could be taken forward. So we're here to say, Cyril Ramaphosa, please, President, as you put across the issues of South Africa, also remember the issues of Swaziland and the people of Swaziland. We know that the king is continuing to systematically kill the people of Swaziland in a quiet genocide that the world is not looking into. That's why we are here to say we are asking Cyril Ramaphosa, in his capacity as the SADC chairperson, to take the matter of Swaziland forward as he presents the SONA. I'm here in my capacity, not just as a party representative, but I'm here to speak for the people of Swaziland, the 1.3 people of Swaziland, 1.3 million people of Swaziland, that whose voices have been trampled by King Mswati and his regime. That's why we're here.
Your name?
My name is Vusi Shongwe. I'm the president of the Swaziland People's Liberation Movement.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
One of the members from Swaziland, Vusi Shongwe, a patriot, coming here to say to the president, who also came to Swaziland to try and intervene in some of those issues that they are faced with their president, to say you did come to intervene, but now you're addressing South African problems, but we want our voices to be amplified, to be heard by the whole world. We also have another activist here who was here earlier on with your placards. I understand you're also one of the gang that was also pushed away. What are some of your grievances you want to put out here today?
Yeah, good day. My name is Christopher Clausen, the president of Spectrum National Party, and I just want to plead as a party to the president of South Africa and the NEC of the ANC to please focus on the burning issues in our country. It's unemployment, it is crime, it's corruption, and this is the issues that's been going on for some time now, Mr. President. You need to bring experts together to take this country to a first world country. We cannot continue going on this for 28 years now, and our lifestyle are still the same. Look at the issues, the cry of our people out there, so that we can see that there's change. People still stay poor. The reason they stay poor because why? They don't get the opportunity to go and study. The parents are poor, so the children will always be poor because mothers and fathers, They are not in a position to send the kids away to go and study free of charge at universities. We cry to you, Mr. President, today as a political party. Please let us bring the communities together, bring the experts together so that we can work out a plan to take this country to a first world country. And Spectrum National Party is willing to help you. You know, corporate cooperatives is the solution of South Africa. You know, people will earn much more what they currently earn now. So please help us, make us part of your plans, because you cannot do it alone. You in the ANC, in your NEC, they don't have all the expertise. So we are here to help you. Get us on board so we can get a final and a permanent solution to our burning issues in our country. Thank you.
You keep referring to us and saying they must include you. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what I'm meaning by including us, you know, there are a lot of registered political parties. They are not in parliament. They don't have seats yet. Like we as a new party who's already in all provinces, we don't have, this is the first time we're going to contest in the 24 elections now. Get other parties who are already registered on board to help you, or if the other parties in parliament can't do it.
Thank you so much, sir. Some of the South Africans and activists talking about some of the burning issues that they want the president to address, and also to address the socio-economic landscape of South Africa, saying they must call them on board so they can discuss some of these issues to try and improve the livelihood of South Africa. Let me take, then we cross over to my colleague Natasha, who is standing by.
Right, Natasha Phiri, yes, out and about, close to the red carpet. We'll take you live back to her and her colleagues. But right now in studio in Johannesburg, I'm joined by Emil Umrau, who is our specialist researcher. And Emil, I mean, we've got some graphs because we can look at the promises that have been made. And the common refrain coming through is we've been let down. And even after last year, a lot has happened. The July unrest, Parliament burning, various national key points burning. In fact, Emil, I'll come back to you and we'll look at the business of Parliament and we'll look at some of those promises. Natasha Phiri, are you with us? What can you see? All right, Natasha is not ready, but these are live visuals coming to you from the Cape Town City Hall. My colleague Samkele also there. We've heard from them, and the politicians arriving en masse, which is very different to last year when we had a virtual State of the Nation address. Okay, let me come back to you. We'll hop between Johannesburg and Cape Town. Emil, our specialist researcher, and you've put together some graphs for us, and I think it's worth remembering that the State of the Nation address, the SONA, represents the opening of Parliament. And there's been a lot of talk about Parliament's role in terms of preventing state capture or not preventing state capture. It is the third arm of the state. It's meant to hold the executive accountable. So let's bring up that graph and just tell us a bit about the work of Parliament last year and what we can expect this year.
Well, of course, last year in Parliament, you know, we had a number of sittings, a number of bills that were passed. So 22 of the 25 bills that were introduced to Parliament last year were passed at the time, and we had about 38 hybrid sittings between the National Assembly, and 25 of those sittings were, of course, the debates. So Parliament, yes, here last year was busy. Of course, it was a bit different for them, obviously, being sort of hybrid between digital and being in-house. Whereas if we move on to the NCOP, they had 32 sittings and 6 debates. Now, we're getting all these stats from the sort of year-end summary that Parliament does on an annual basis. And what we see is some very interesting figures here. 387 oral questions were asked, and 376 replies were given to those. Members also faced 3,090 written questions.
That is a lot, over 3,000 written questions.
Yeah, and how many of them were replied to is actually what we've got to look at. Yeah. Almost all of them, actually. 2,746 to be exact.
Let's just clarify. So these are questions asked of either the President or ministers, members of the executive. Yes, so yes, then Parliament is ostensibly holding the executive to account, although it's been said, you know, sometimes those questions lack a lot of detail, especially if it's a written reply. Sorry, the replies, not the questions. The replies lack lack a lot of detail and leave the parliamentarians who ask the question wanting more and wanting more of a debate. But at least stuff is happening.
Yeah. Of course, whether things are happening or not, it's great to see it on paper, but what's being implemented from there, it's great asking questions, getting responses, but are we actually doing anything about it? And I think that's where the real answers lie.
Yeah.
If we look at some of the victories, the successes from last year, some of the promises that were made in SONA last year, and if we carry it forward, it tells a different tale.
So let's do that. And you've actually delineated for us, we're looking at COVID-19 promises first. So the Minister, Kgalema Motlanthe, they're saying in fact, Natasha is saying we're basically out of this pandemic and we're looking at the next phase. But it was a very different picture last year. And of course, the concern about vaccinations, just tell us what was promised.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people would disagree. The health scientists specifically, that we're out of this COVID pandemic, as he would say. But if we go back a year, we were in a much worse situation. And using that term very loosely, of course, in a worse situation in terms of the numbers that we were seeing on a day-to-day basis, and also the rates of death we were seeing on a day-to-day basis.
And that was the Delta variant.
Of course.
Yes.
And from that, I remember President Cyril Ramaphosa at the time promised us, of course, this massive vaccination drive that would see, at the time we were still waiting in for quite a lot of the new doses of vaccines to come in. So we were looking at new doses of Pfizer vaccines coming in, Johnson & Johnson vaccines coming in, millions of them in fact. And what the president did say was that a massive vaccination drive would then take place. And of course it did to some effect. I think, if I remember correctly, the target was around 70% of the adult population that they were trying to reach to get to sort of a herd immunity. And as it stands today, we're not seeing those numbers. The last time I checked, it was only 43% of the total adult population who were fully vaccinated.
I guess we do have to acknowledge that the issue has changed. At the time, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a lack of supply, and government was being blamed for not being quick enough out of the starting blocks, dealing with global suppliers. Everybody was competing for vaccines. Now we have more than enough supply, but vaccine hesitancy. So that's a different issue. So maybe government did its bit, unless its communication was weak in terms of countering vaccine hesitancy.
Well, obviously we're going into a phase now where we're talking about mandatory vaccinations, which is probably naturally the next step we've got to take in order to boost those levels up. Obviously you are going to have a lot of different voices combating that as we go forward, as we're seeing throughout the world, of course. But as it stands, this number of 43% has been hovering around that number for the past couple of months. So obviously something else needs to happen to boost up those vaccine numbers.
Yeah. It has been hailed as a public-private partnership, one that has been successful in South Africa, because we know a lot of those vaccine doses were done by the medical aids or the private health companies. But just tell me about some of these figures. You're saying a bit of a hollow victory.
It's of course a hollow victory, because if we look at SONA last year as well, we were promised massive health infrastructure development by the president. Obviously a large part of our population, a significantly large part of our population, still use the public health system and have to access their vaccinations or their treatment through that system. And obviously we've heard so many stories, and we've covered them here at the SABC, where we see the sort of neglect and the negligence at some of these public hospitals or these public clinics. And then we see on the other end of the spectrum, we see the private sector dishing out those vaccines to a lot more people more efficiently. And so obviously there is this divide. And that comes back to what the president said last year, building up that infrastructure. Have we seen that? I don't think we have.
All right, we'll come back to you. Thank you for being with us. Emil, our specialist researcher. Natasha Phiri is live on the red carpet. Are you, Natasha?
Well, thank you very much. We're now joined by the leader of the ACDP, Mr. Reverend Kenneth Meshe. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. I mean, your expectations for tonight's State of the Nation address, we've been saying time and time again, it's a State of the Nation address like no other. First time in the history of the country that it's actually being held here at the Cape Town City Hall.
Assurance that security will be restored and confidence that our security agencies will do their job well is what must happen tonight. Because what happened last year in July, the buildings and the torching and the looting and all that stuff, people are asking the question, are we not going to have a repeat of that when the national key points cannot even be protected? The report that was given by the task team that the president appointed has been devastating, has been very damning to the police, to the ANC as a party, because their divisions is causing a major problem in the country. It causes the security also to be divided. And so you cannot know who to trust and who not to trust. So the president tonight has a major responsibility of saying to the country is united. Because if the house is divided, that house is going to fall. If South Africans can continue without proper security, we will not see the new investments that we expect in the country. And if we don't have investments, the high and unemployment rate that we are having is going to continue being a problem. We have young people who are crying, young people who are complaining, young people are asking questions such as, why did we go to school to get these diplomas and these degrees, because we can't find jobs anywhere. So to tell South Africans that jobs will be created, the first thing to do is to assure us that security will be re-established, because right now we don't have security, or we have very poor security. That must be dealt with before we can attract more investors in the country.
And just actually talking about security, interestingly, so the police minister just actually passed us right behind you. Unfortunately, we couldn't get him. But Meshe, you mentioned that July unrest reports, and it finds the Minister of Police and the intelligence ministers back then wanting. Are you also of the view that the police minister should be fired by President Cyril Ramaphosa?
Actually, I'm surprised. I'm surprised that even, or maybe it might surprise us today, okay? But the report also pointed to the National Commissioner of Police and the police minister not working together. They say they are poles apart. Now, if they are poles apart, that says to us, maybe they are taking sides in the divisions within the ANC. And for as long as that is the case, they will not bring crime under control. And if crime is not brought under control and security is restored, then we are not going to see new investments, and the unemployment will continue seeing the percentages go up and people losing their jobs, which is very unfortunate. So there must be action. And action. The former Minister of Intelligence, Minister of Police, and National Commissioner of Police, something must be done to them to restore confidence of the people.
Thank you, Reverend Meshe. Of course, they're talking about action. Let's just link to my colleague, Samkele Maseko. Samkele, who are you with?
Well, Natasha, the minister in the presidency, Mondli Gungubelo, is also the Minister of State Security, or the minister in the presidency responsible for state security today. Where are the spooks? Are they around?
Spooks are spooking, you'll never see them.
The spooks failed to detect fraudulent activity during the unrest in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Are they now finally woken up?
We are on course to resolve the challenges.
What were some of the issues that you found they seem to have been appointed in this position?
No, there's nothing new other than the one that has been reported by Sandy and Sidney Mufumadi's panel review. I have got nothing to add.
The president will be speaking about this issue today. What can we anticipate that we can hear?
We expect the president to speak on the security of the country. We expect the president to speak on the economic recovery. We expect the president to speak on ease of doing business. We expect the president to speak on energy infrastructure and a series of those things.
You are arguably the most powerful minister in the country at this point in time. How does it feel?
Since I have been in government, I have never had a sense of power, except the sense of responsibility. All I know, I've got a lot of work to do. What, in terms of power, what it means, I don't know.
Is there going to be an issue here today with state security? Is the president safe? Is there going to be an issue with state security here today? Is the president safe?
As far as we're concerned, everything in the power of that institution with regard to ensuring that this place is safe has been done. Remember, Samkele,
Here today, you'll be having the head of the state, the executive, parliament, judiciary in under one roof. So it's a very serious thing to be worried about. I think our guys have tried their best. We just pray to God that must have actually delivered something.
So you were anticipating that something might happen here today?
No. We are saying, against all the things that have already happened in the country, we always anticipate bad things of late.
So you are anticipating something bad may happen?
Against the background of a number of things that have happened in the country, we are just trying to be cautious.
So in essence, that's why you've beefed up your security?
We are just being cautious.
We
are cautious. You know, Parliament is always secured. This session is always secured.
All Parliament always secured. It burned down with your people sleeping.
I'm sorry. You know, we always take steps to secure the Parliament. There must have been lapses, which we are very disappointed about. But what we are doing here is not new, but it might have been intensified because of the logistics. Remember, this structure is not similar to the normal structure that we usually use.
Thank you very much, Minister Mondli Kungubela, saying they are on high alert, particularly with the backdrop of the things that have happened in the office in the country. Back to you, Vuyo and Bongiwe.